Welcome to Breakpoint, the ServiceNow Developer Podcast.
Hello, admins, builders, developers, and curious individuals. I say with the utmost love and respect. Welcome back to the Breakpoint Podcast, the ServiceNow Developer Podcast, here to bring you all the latest tools, tips, and tradecraft to accelerate your developer career. My name is Laura McManamon. I am one of the senior developer advocates here at ServiceNow, and I am really excited. I always seem to say that, but I am really excited about today's topic. Now, if you are listening to this episode on the day of its announcement, which is October 8th, that means that we have been 1 week removed from something that happened on the ServiceNow socials and live streams, etc., which was the AI Experience launch. Now, basically, the highlight of this launch was that we're trying to consistently consolidate all the means in which you, as a developer, as a customer, are leveraging our AI solutions. However, one thing that was also announced kind of in the middle of this AI experience is that we are consistently improving the ways in which we can utilize AI on the platform. And so one of these ways, which I think will be very interesting to all the developers out there, are web agents. And so I've brought on a phenomenal guest, a returning guest, if you will, to help us talk more about these web agents. So please give a warm welcome to Jingfei Chen. Jingfei, it's so nice to have you back today. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm good. So some people might know me as the product manager for Flow Designer, and then but today I'm here to talk about another product I have, which is Web Agent.
Yes, we only bring Jingfei back to show us the coolest, newest stuff. So if you ever see her on a show, it's always a very good sign. So, hey, is there any fun, how have you been? I think the last episode you were on was a little bit over a year ago. So aside from switching products to something that's very exciting, is there any other big life updates? How have you been?
Life update, not really any big life update. I'm still in the same company, same location, same city. I'm located in San Francisco. Nice. Life has just been good and chaotic, but good chaotic.
Honestly, kind of the same on our team. I think that's one of the most, it's a good reflection of how nice this, place is to work, that certain things are consistent, but other things are always exciting. So yeah. I do really love the aspect of working here at ServiceNow. So for the audience members that maybe missed the AI experience, which I heavily encourage them to watch after they listen to this podcast episode, let's talk a little bit about web agents. You hear a lot of different, I think the joke before was there was too many studios at ServiceNow. And now we're getting to the point where there's almost too many agents.
Too many agents. Yeah. No, I have heard that too before from customer, and I share the same sentiment. I would say web agent is just another type of AI agent. I'm trying to make the product so customers don't even need to know, hey, what is this agent? What's that agent? Am I using web agent? Am I using another AI agent? Too much to remember. I can't really remember all the time. So so all you need to know is just another type of AI agent. The only difference is it uses a different technology. So instead of like other AI agent, you could use script, action, flow, but all of that rely on backend scripting. So some sort of API if you need to talk to another application. Whereas web agent is totally different. It doesn't rely on API. It relies on UI navigation to achieve the user goal. So it can click, scroll, type, search, just like a human does. So it just really differ from the technology, but you don't need to make a decision on, hey, I need to use this time, use another type that time. That's entirely on the back end on us.
And, I think a lot of the other AI functionality pieces are very ServiceNow specific, like AI agents are doing things within ServiceNow. Mm-hmm. The build agents are doing ServiceNow code, but web agents, I think what was so interesting for me, especially in the example provided in the showcase, was it's doing things on websites outside of ServiceNow. And this is not because of an integration, mind you, this is them accessing your browser essentially to do these things, correct?
That's exactly it, because the UI navigation is not as reliable as API, but the thinking is, certain website will have API, but certain may not. Every single website out there will have a UI because they at first need to enable human can use it, right? So we're just ensuring that interface is also available for AI technology. That's all. So yes, you're absolutely right. It enables maximal flexibility.
And one thing too, again, referencing the example provided was, hey, there might have been an integration built, but it's offline, or perhaps
Hmm.
they've upgraded it to a different version and kind of broken the integration between the two systems. This
Yeah.
is a not only a nice thing to have in general, but it's a nice plan B as well for technology that already exists or that you've already built as a developer on the platform. So it kind of even
Yeah.
changes the paradigm for problem solving, if
For
you will.
exactly. And for those of you who like remember me or know me, I used to be a customer myself before I joined ServiceNow. So I was the developer. The gist was when I was a developer, and I'm sure a lot of the people on this recording can also share the same sentiment. The backlog you have is very, very long. And so the
Yes.
different business area or different areas in the company will keep sending you backlog. I used to have colleague get to me on a message, be like, "Hey, this thing I submitted like 4 weeks ago. Have you had a chance to review?" I was like, 4 weeks ago? five
Yeah.
months ago we haven't touched. 4 weeks ago. Wait.
Yes.
But this whole web agent is like, yes, you could have API on certain website, but what if you just haven't got to it? What if it's low priority that you will never get to it? We're
Mhm.
ensuring your end user or people in your company can enjoy the automation, even though you might not have chance to see some of the use case or pay attention to some of the use cases.
Absolutely. I think that's probably it's like a nice safety net. Like obviously you could
Yeah,
easily build this into plan A for
right.
problems that are being solved, but having it there to help, like you said, offset a long backlog or offset prioritizations that have changed is a really nice safety net to keep business flowing. Because that's ultimately
Hmm.
the goal of ServiceNow's approach to AI is to really keep things moving seamlessly, whether people are currently really strapped for time or whether they can approach these things with their priorities in mind. Now, I think one of the things I noticed being very different about web agents than AI agents or builder agents is that primarily when I interact with AI agents or builder agents, it's through the like chatting interface, right? You're
Hmm.
communicating with it or it's communicating with you in some way, shape, or form. But web agents are a bit different because you can use them in that way, or they, like you said, this is something that can be used seamlessly throughout your flows, throughout your things, built in as a tool that, like you said, you're not having to manage all this in your head. It's more so added in as additional functionality, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So if user or if any of the account or companies want to use this as a tool, and then they want to build like purposely specific
Hmm.
tool for using web agent on a specific goal, they can. They can author it in the same way as they author any other AI agent. Go to AI Agent Studio, selecting the tool. It's just one more tool as web automation. That's all. But if they don't want to author their own for like use case that maybe API is not available, they can just simply use the out of box web agent that we provide. And then, as you mentioned, because it's on the browser, so you can, instead of only chatting with it, you can chat with it, see its thought process, but also see the progress live on the screen.
Yes, through the canvas, correct? That's what it's
Yes,
called.
yes, yes.
So basically, as they are exploring the web to find the data needed or to log into systems, what have you, there is a portion of the screen which you can open up that'll show it actively navigating through the browser, which is very, very cool to see. Also, again, I think that ServiceNow really prides itself in giving you the tool sets to double check AI. AI is
Mm-hmm.
far from perfect. And so having the visual to also see what it's actually doing, I think is imperative, especially in a V1 of anything, just to know, hey, like, let me just watch this first run just to make sure
Yeah,
it's,
watch over the shoulder,
yes.
supervising, and meaning be like, hey, AI is working for you. And so if it's doing things correctly, incorrectly, you should be able to see. And also keep track of even after, let's say you didn't supervise this, let's say you just let it run, but then after the fact, you want some traceability back into what has happened. And so that would be helpful to have the canvas showing you the stream of things.
Now, one thing I had, obviously, this product, I think, brings to mind a lot of technology trends that have grown and
Mm.
changed over time. And one thing that I could not help but notice is like this is a very similar use case to RPA. So for robotic process automation, that was a tool set. It's a concept that exists on a lot of different platforms, not just ServiceNow, obviously, but on ServiceNow's platform, we have an RPA solution that allows these deployable bots to do similar actions, both either on a physical computer or online as well. And so, what is the difference in use case, I guess, for RPA versus something like a web agent? Or is it because one is so much easier to set up or flexible?
Yeah, so RPA requires some authoring. RPA, I would say, also so both technology are relying on front end
Hmm.
UI and then not so much so on the back end APIs. However, RPA requires authoring, and so if let's say your website changed, the buttons shift from this corner to other corner of the page, then you probably want to reauthor that RPA flow. So there's some maintenance involved. Whereas the web agent on the execution, like when it's running it, it's like trying to understand, hey, what is the component on the page I should be doing, or I should be clicking, or I should be typing or searching. So it's doing
Hmm.
all of that, like understanding and making decision on the fly. And so let's say your website change in the future, maybe some verbiage change, the button location change. You don't really need to maintain web agent because it's doing that decision making on the spot.
True. But then also the flip side of that too is that RPA is not only specifically relegated to doing things in a
Exactly.
browser. It can do things on-prem. It can do things that are not connected to the internet. So I think that's the like the balance of functionality is that yeah,
Right.
web agents can let it rip in a browser, but the web is imperative to the web agents
Yeah, I would say
working.
there are pros and cons for each, and there are use cases for each. But with all of that being said, we are aligning the backend technology. So RPA web agent will be using the same technical architecture. In fact, it's the same engineering director who's owning
Oh,
the
that's
both.
cool. Oh,
Yeah,
nice. Yeah.
yeah. So we are we're streamlining the technology behind the scene a little bit. So hopefully user don't really need to make that distinguish in the future. But for now, I would say there are room for both.
Fascinating. I have them coalesce like that. That makes a lot of sense. So I think that we've covered kind of lightly some of the applications of web agents, right? But let's kind of dive into specifically, as customers are, more and more customers a day are getting access to these AI tool sets. What are some really nice like cornerstone use cases that you think they should start utilizing these web agents for?
Yeah, so we have done some research and talking to some customers before. What we find is there are two types of like major use cases. Number one is that if you want to automate something like a website or a internal portal that does not have API, you really
Mm,
don't have any other way to automate it, then web agent is the catch-all of the long tail of website that you don't have API. Maybe some,
yes.
like in an enterprise environment, not to calling anything, but like
Yeah.
applications can be very old, very 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 old.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so they may not have the most modern API architecture.
Mhm.
The last person who maintained it might not be even in the company anymore.
True.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So for things like that, there's just no way to automate it.
Mhm.
Yes, web agent could catch those use cases.
Mhm.
The second bucket is any one-off automation, low-hanging fruit task that is just too small, too minor to get to a developer, or you just don't have time or don't want to spend the time to build an API on top of it. So frequent things such as, you know, we all know user management, password reset, provisioning user account, moving the states of ticket from one to another, right? Like
Mhm.
we call these form filling. So basically, no, regardless of what subject is, you're filling out a form and then you're submitting that form. A lot of the business in the enterprise is done through or communicated through forms. And so
Mhm.
any forms that we should be talking about in terms of the use case.
Honestly, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, when I heard about this solution, the first thing that came to mind was LinkedIn's crappy API that, as developer advocates, we are constantly trying to we want to improve. We want to be able to manage all of our content. But so much of the stuff we put out is on LinkedIn. Do you know how we track those analytics? By hand. By hand. So the first thing I saw with this was like, oh my God, am I finally free of LinkedIn's? I think
Yeah.
their analytics, is like, it can pull like your follower count. I'm like, that's not what I want.
Right.
I want all the analytics on every post. Now, so screen, hey, future Lauren, clip this in when you finally do build that using web agents. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah, like I'm sure the audience could relate. Like when you want to file a benefit, fill out a form. When you want to reach out to some other team, fill out a form. Your
Yep.
computer like just fail on you, fill out a form, right? So all these things are form filling, and then so like they might be two different systems, but you're filling forms all day long. So we're trying
Absolutely.
to get you some help around that.
Well, especially because all that data is usually stored already in ServiceNow. I think that's one thing that we constantly reiterate about ServiceNow in that it's an automation platform, but its real value comes from its consolidative aspect, right? It is the, not to mention another brand, but like it is the iPhone in which all these other apps can exist upon.
Mm-hmm.
And it acts as that connective point between all of that. And by acting as that connective point, either through integration or locally, it has all that data anyway. So if you are filling out a form, it's probably got the data needed to fill out that form for you, or
Mm-hmm.
somewhere it does. So, or like you said, it can get you 90% of the way there, kick it back to the person and allow them to fill in the remaining 10%. Because I think that's the other thing about having these agents employed in workflows is that we do offer the ability to pause them and say, okay, now it's a perfect opportunity for a person to put in their password or put in something more sensitive or answer a health question that isn't stored. So I think that's the good balance point too, is that it
Yeah.
does pause.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. We intentionally want to allow human in the loop, so pause web agent, for example, such as filling out credentials or going through legal terms and conditions. It's not like technology cannot do it. Technology can, and we can find workarounds to do, but we really don't. We don't want to have access to your credentials. We don't want to make legal decision on behalf of you. So these are the places that we intentionally pause and then allow human to be part of the workflow as well.
Very smart. Now, we've kind of talked about the applications. Let's talk about V1. I think it's always interesting to focus on like the actual like capability set of V1 because I think it really does set an interesting precedent for like these products. So, as far as the capabilities right now, what can web agents? What is the domain of that possibility?
Yeah, so let's say if you handle a backend of a ticketing system or like a shopping portal, then you are managing a lot of customers per se.
Mm-hmm.
Like just giving you an example.
Yeah.
And then so there's a lot of incoming ticket just to update information, right? So there's like updating customer information. Hey, they changed contact from this person to another. The person moved or changed phone number. Like these are simple form filling things that you can do in the backend, and I'm sure that's actually like a big portion of the incoming tasks that you receive. So those will be the perfect use cases for web agent. Some other times you are probably chasing down information from one portal and then copy that word to another portal, right? So there's like an element of accessing information and then you're comparing and then just copy over to a different portal. If it's ServiceNow to ServiceNow, there's e-bonding, but then that's not always available, right? So these are places where you're extracting information and putting it in another place.
Got you. Now, when it's talking about, obviously the World Wide Web is a very wide place. Are there any safety mechanisms that we can employ with web agents to prevent it from going certain places?
Yeah, quite a lot. Our first priority is ensure that customers feel comfortable using this technology. It is very, very new out there. I mean, I think it started as a trend only this year, right? So
Yeah.
like
Yes.
it's not even a year old.
No.
So it's brand new technology, and there's a lot of development. And for that reason, we add in quite a few safeguards. So besides the human in the loop that I mentioned for like high risk action, we purposely don't want to automate. There is also a system property we're adding. So we are allowing the whitelist website, and that's totally configurable by the customer. So we start small, and the web agent is not even going out of the places that you didn't say it's whitelisted.
So it's more like opting in things and opting out of things. Okay,
exactly. I want customer to be very intentional on where they want web agent to go. It's not going to just go wonder things and start purchasing stuff.
Go to Amazon, start buying some fun stuff.
That would not be good.
Fair.
Another limitation, I wouldn't call it limitation, it could be benefit. Another characteristic of our current implementation is because it sits in your browser, it has control of your browser. So as soon as your browser has access to something, it will have access. Let's say your browser is in an internal subnet of like a high security environment, and it has access to some
an intranet.
An intranet, some private website, and it has single sign-on enabled. All of these will be naturally inherited to web agent. So your browser have some access to something, web agent will.
Okay. Very good to know. So like auto filling in passwords and things like that, probably if you have that set up in your browser, it's accessible.
Yes. If the credential is saved within the browser, web agent will have it. So, but that also means you have a bit more control on what your browser have access to.
Of course. So it's a good mindfulness, if we're speaking about best practices too, it's good to think about it as basically someone sitting down in your chair on your browser. So if they can do that, the web agents can do that too. Are there any other best practices that you recommend? Because I think that, obviously this has just come out. There's a lot of interest in this. So people are going to be kind of diving into this head first. Are there any best practices you'd recommend for utilizing these effectively?
Start trying things out. I mean, getting your hands on the technology is the most important part. It will do better on certain things and not so well on others. So for example, like certain UI element, like drag and drop or calendar, like those are considered complex UI element. Like for example, me as a human being, sometimes I go to a website, I'm like, I'm not sure what's clickable. If I'm confused, web agent will get confused too.
Fair, yeah.
So it's just gonna go through the exact thought process as a human being. I wouldn't say they are best practice. They're just like potential some limitations that we could be facing.
Okay,
with web
good to know.
Yeah.
Now you'd mentioned, like obviously one of the best places to get comfortable with this is test driving it. Are there places to do that? Is this available like at some of the, we're right on the cusp of a lot of world forums coming up. Is there places that can try it out there perhaps?
Yeah, for sure. So in Q3, which was September release, that was a week, 2 weeks ago, we released web agent in a pilot access capacity. So a selected few customers are actually like getting their hands onto web agent, just so we can learn as much as we can from interacting with customers and what's their gotcha, what's their use case, and what's their like the aha moment. So if you want to be participating in that pilot program, reach out to either one of us, and then we can get you set up. This thing is the web agent product itself was also demoed heavily in K25. And so you probably have already seen it. If not, I can also, after the podcast, in the promotion link, I have the demos and videos that you can also watch just to get familiar with it. If you reach out to us for the pilot program, we'll have to do some checks to make sure you're eligible. Even if you're not, we can add you to research and making sure that you're involved in all the future talking. And then if you have questions, we can answer those. So we can talk.
Okay. Any of those links that Jingfei mentioned, I'll make sure to put them in the description down below. Now, I know I always feel so selfish asking this because obviously this product just literally just came out. So it feels rude to ask, but what's the next priority? Let's phrase it that way instead of like, what's coming up next for web agent? What's the next aspect functionality wise being prioritized for development? Obviously, safe harbor. Everything we talk about after this point is not out. So it is subject to change, but is there a big priority for V2 of web agents?
Oh, you won't believe my roadmap is very, very long. Very, very, very long.
I can't imagine.
One thing that's coming out, that's a little bit, so the virtual machine route that I mentioned previously, that's actually coming out in Q4. So like we'll giving customer options, different options to install. So there is the browser extension that's already out, and then virtual machine route for installation that will happen in Q4. So customers do have a choice, depends on their environmental setup, of how to enable web agent. Besides that, there are also two other things we are prioritizing next. So there is the fallback as web agent. Let's say your AI agent and orchestration. If you have a purposely built AI agent for, I don't know, incident triage, right? We want the orchestrator to match to that properly or purposely built AI agent. But what if it doesn't match to anything? We want to have web agent as a catch-all bucket for everything you can type in. So hopefully there's never going to be, hey, I don't understand this intent, please say things again. So we want to have a catch-all mechanism, making sure in case nothing matched, web agent should roll in. So that is, we call it fallback mechanism as web agent. So that's one thing. Another thing is we are adding a future feature called record and replay. So essentially it's like, instead of web agent just go and try things out, what if you can demonstrate once of how to do something?
Okay. So you basically, it's a training mechanism.
It's a training mechanism. Just like when you're hiring an intern, you're like, watch over my shoulder of how I do something, and then you can just do similar things like this in the future.
Very cool.
So there's like this training of user, like demonstrating and how we can extract information out of it as the future recipe for a web agent execution.
That aspect is fascinating, especially with you had mentioned about those more complex websites that might struggle a bit with the UI or with how they're organized, whether it's, me as a person struggling or just web agent, is probably both. But having that training mechanism, I think, would be really interesting, especially if you're already limiting the websites. It's exploring, it's really training it in a fine-tuned way.
Exactly.
Very cool. Now, to give people a little insight too, I think that one of the most radical things about AI, especially in the last year, is how it just kind of came out of nowhere, right? Like I mean, sincerely, and so I think I've talked about this with a lot of other product managers at ServiceNow about how, as a team, their priorities had to radically change to meet this new enterprise need. I assume, is that a similar story for you and your product as well?
Very similar. Our pace of product management or just working with customer has really speed up. So we used to do, release used to be just 2 times per year, and now it's quarterly. And then we don't really spend effort planning like 2 years in advance, because who knows what new technology will come up, right?
Yes.
So I only look at like 2 quarters ahead of me. That's all. So there's a lot more thinking or improvement that we can add to web agent. But I want to just let's say, just to give you the innovative vision. But I think the technology will evolve so quickly, and then we'll discover other use cases about another better use of the technology.
It's like my mom asking me for my what's your 5-year plan? I'm like,
I
don't know.
Stop asking me.
She's so nice, because my mom's she's a dentist too, so her career is so structured, and she's like, what's your 5-year plan? I'm like, Mom, 3 years ago I barely knew that developer advocacy exists, and so now technologically this problem was even massively more compounded. It's fascinating, because I think that too, like you had mentioned, looking even further beyond 2 quarters is so hard to hit the mark on, because of how the trends are so rapidly changing and fizzling out too. Like, some trends really take off and then they die out as easily as fast. So it's hard to even match that too far in advance. You don't want all your cookies in one basket. So
For sure. And I've experienced, I feel this personally when I'm talking to a customer. depends on the customer. Some of them might be very eager and just like very up to date with the technology trend. And so, but some of them may not be. And so if I show some customer like a different demo, and then I can literally see the creative juice like flowing. Right? I can literally see the more thoughts going, be like, oh, okay, I see what you're talking about. Now I can think about a use case in my company. So it really, it's fascinating. We're in a very interesting state.
With the customers that have tested this out and that you, like you said, you had done research with them to make sure that the capabilities were matching the customer need, what were their thoughts? Like, especially with these initial thoughts of it kind of rolling out, do you have any things that you can disclose there?
Yeah. I mean, customers are lovely. I love talking to customer. Remember earlier I was mentioning we want to use this technology as a catch-all bucket so that your user
never just like, I don't know.
don't need to your user don't need to wait for a developer to go in and author and can start, like just acting on things. That's actually my customer gave me that idea. Like I initially thought about this product as in, hey, it's just another way to author. I never thought about this need for zero authoring and just catch and just acting.
It's like a try-catch loop. Like it's gotta
exactly. My customer actually told me that. They said, "Oh, okay, this demo you show me, the most amazing wow factor is actually this." So I was like, yeah. So that's why I love talking to customers. They're really well versed in the ServiceNow ecosystem, and then they understand their business really well.
They do. Is there a place that as people get access to this and try it out, is there a place where they can provide product feedback?
Yeah. I think the best way is just to contact me. Contact me. My email will be also linked in this podcast episode itself. So contact me. I will sending your information. I will get you connected to the pilot program, to the research, to whoever the resources and everything.
Wonderful. I mean, be forewarned. You might get more. I've had a couple of guests be like, "Oh, just put my email down there." I'm like, okay.
we said so. It's okay. Reach out to me. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I do have customers reaching out and giving me product feedback on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, that's lovely. Okay.
Yeah. Now, one of the last things I'd like to talk about is like a call to action. So after listening to this episode, what do you recommend people do? Like, especially if they're like, oh, this seems amazing, I'm really interested. You had mentioned the pilot program is something that they should probably pursue if they'd like to get access to web agents that are not necessarily have it readily available yet. Are there any other things you'd recommend?
Get involved. Watch the tutorial of recorded demos, and we have quite a few, which I will also be adding to the episode itself. Watch the video. Tell me your use case. It's important that I nail the use case from customer, just so I can making sure our testing data is spot on, making sure the quality and latency and the way I strategize the product is spot on. So if you really want to have web agent behave the way you're thinking, tell me about it. So tell me your use case, tell me the environment you're using this, vent about things, just come talk to me.
Well, I think that speaks a lot about the way that these products are managed. And I can't thank you enough for being so approachable on this, because some companies, I think as they grow and get bigger, I think that becomes a bit more intimidating to bring feedback. And so I really appreciate you and your team always being so upfront with customers. And I think it showcases it in the product. I think that it means that when people do provide feedback and take the time to do so, it's meaningful because they can see it happen. Now, it's not going to happen immediately, but you can see how it factors into the backlog and how it changes the priorities for these products over time. So thank you for being so receptive to our customer base. I think it means a lot. It means a lot to them, and it means a lot to me as well, because I think that as a former customer myself, I always felt heard by ServiceNow too. I love how that stayed consistent over the years.
Yes, that's my experience as well. So I want to continue that. Good transition.
Yeah. Well, I cannot thank you for joining us here today on Breakpoint, Jingfei. I think that it's really going to get the gears turning in people's brains on how they should even be better designing their applications with this, like you said, as a catch-all solution for the the flows they're designing, for the agents they're building. I think it's really going to usher in a new wave of efficiency here on ServiceNow. So thank you for kind of diving in deep onto it with us.
No problem.
Awesome. Well, thank you, wonderful listener, for joining us here today. This is one of many ServiceNow podcasts, and you can find the others at community.servicenow.com. Breakpoint is brought to you by ServiceNow with producer me, Laura McManamon, and it happens every 2 weeks. So if you like this episode, tune in 2 weeks from now for another awesome episode on the horizon. Thank y'all so much. Stay hungry, stay humble, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Please let us know what you think about this podcast. You can leave feedback or ask questions in the ServiceNow community. For more great information on ServiceNow development, check out the ServiceNow Developer portal at developer.servicenow.com. Thanks for listening.